A very good morning to all of you who are joining us from India, and a very good evening to all of you who are joining us from the United States of America. My warm greetings to all of those who are joining us from other parts of the world as well. I just finished a live session with Shetty on Facebook, and we are now wanting to go live with him on Instagram. Just trying to get him in, and we will definitely get into the conversation straight away. Trying to see if Jay can join us now, but so delighted and glad, so delighted and glad to have Jay with us this morning. Thank you very much, Jay, for joining us for this Instagram live session. What you shared such incredible insights with us on Facebook. Guys, if you haven't seen that live, please go and watch the Facebook live as well. It's on Jay's page and my page as well. And he shared some really profound insights from his new book, the debut book, Think Like a Monk. Jay Shetty, I have introduced him on Facebook, but I must do this again. Jay Shetty, as I always call him, a billionaire, someone who has billions of views on social media, someone who has touched billions of lives, someone who has, transformed the thinking of so many individuals around the world. But more than that, I think Jay Shetty is a very, very dear friend. We've known each other for the last 15 years and spent a lot of time, had a lot of fun, had some real meaningful conversations as well. So very, very happy that you're here, Jay. And Jay's book, Think Like a Monk, is already an international bestseller, #1 international bestseller on Amazon. Now imagine that. Day one, it's the international bestseller on Amazon. #1 in India on Amazon, #1 in UK and Australia on Amazon, and getting there in the United States as well. What an incredible achievement. So thank you very much for joining us this morning, Jay. And I'm also going to put in the comments, the link for his book. So do check it out, guys, and we'll pin that comment as well. So Jay, let's get into the conversation. We just have 30 minutes. Jay is a busy man, so to get his 30 minutes is extremely precious. Time is precious, but Jay's time is way too precious. So in this book, Jay, there's a section called negativity, and I think everybody in the world goes through so much negativity at different points of time. Sometimes it's negativity because of personal issues. Sometimes it's negativity because of, health issues. Sometimes it's professional issues, relationship issues. Currently, it's the corona pandemic. But there is always going to be stimuli to create that negativity in the mind, correct? So I'm sure you've churned some of these monk principles and presented in this book on how do we deal with this negativity on a daily basis. And there's so much going on. So we would really love to listen to you and hear the principles by which we can deal with this negativity that we go through on a daily basis.
Yes, wonderful question. And again, Gaur, I'm grateful to be with you. This is my tremendous joy to be sharing Think Like a Monk with everyone across the world who's tuning in right now with a living monk. And someone who's been practicing for so many years, and someone that I consider a mentor that I've learned from for many, many years. And yes, in regards to the negativity question, one of the things I remember learning in the ashram was the understanding that there will always be ups and downs, that there will always be highs and lows. There will always be the best moments in our life, and there will always be the lowest moments in our life.
Correct.
And those will continue to cycle, they'll continue to go on. But one of the things that we need to do is to keep perspective of what is important and what is not important. And it's really interesting that in times when negativity gets really overwhelming, we get distracted from the real priorities of life. We get distracted from the things that really help us. So I'll give an example. We're all surrounded by uncertainty, and we know that that's normal. So why not create some certainty in our lives through our daily practices and our daily rituals? When you have your daily practices and your daily rituals, you create a sense of certainty, which starts your day off with a shield, with a feeling of protection, with your armor on. So a good example is that I read a study that said that let's think about monks and let's think about what was the first thing we saw in the morning. The first thing that you would see would potentially be a prayer that inspired you, or it'd be a
Correct.
mantra that inspired you, or it'd be a quote that inspired you into the wisdom of the divine, the wisdom of self-growth and personal
Yes.
reflection. But today, studies show that 80% of us see our phone first thing in the morning, before we see our partners, and at night, after we see our partners, the last thing we see is our phones.
That's
And so
right.
when you're starting your day with your phone and you're ending your day with your phone, how can we expect to not experience negativity? All the notifications, all the emails, all the news updates. So we are programming our day to begin with negativity and end it with negativity. When
Yes.
we can actually program our minds with positivity and power and wisdom by starting our days of looking at a quote, hearing a podcast that we're inspired
Correct.
by, starting it off with a beautiful picture and image that brings joy to our lives. These are better ways to start and end our days.
Oh, thank you so much for that incredible input, Jay. We can be so distracted by negativity, but if we begin by a set of rituals, if we begin by, having a routine, then that can kind of give us that shield of positivity right in the beginning. And of course, what an incredible input you shared, that we begin our days with our smartphones and end our days with our smartphones. And I'm not too sure if it's a very smart thing to do, isn't it?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Doesn't look
100%.
like it's a very smart thing to do. Ladies and gentlemen, please do press that like button and that love button, as Jay says. I don't say that ever. I don't say that ever, but in the presence of Jay, I must say, please press the love button, please press the like button, and
Press
please
the share
press the
button.
share
Press this
button.
one.
Yes, I was going to
Press
say
this one.
that. I was going to say that. Press the share button so that many more can get benefited from this conversation that Jay is sharing with us. So thank you very much for that incredible input, Jay. Jay, you've been incredible and amazing all the time. Your insights, your wisdom is just so transformational and so practical. I think the one thing that you really do so well is break things down. There is the principle, but that principle is abstract, and most people really don't know how to put that abstract principle into practice. So when you break it down into blocks and steps, it becomes so easy for people to practice that, isn't it? So that's your specialty. And I think this book, Think Like a Monk, is not just principles that he learned in the monastery as a monk, but it is principles that are broken down into practical, tangible steps of action, which can be implemented and which can help us transform our life positively. And I was mentioning during our Facebook Live session that Jay was wanting earlier to be a model. I saw his picture in his home. It's such an incredible picture. I'm telling you, it's just Jay is handsome. Everybody knows, but that picture is one of my favorite pictures. I don't know if you've ever posted it. It should be posted one day.
I'll have to find it. So yeah, that's I can't believe you even remember that. I think that was the
Oh,
first
I
time you
do.
came to my home.
Yes.
I think that was the first time you came to my home in London. Yeah, it was I remember that. I remember my hairdresser had told me when I was a young man that I should be a
Uh-huh.
model, and he'd made me take all these pictures.
Oh,
And then
really?
I don't know why they were shown to you when you came over.
No, it was just on the wall.
Yeah. I have no idea, but yeah, you're right. With the book, we tried to do this.
Uh-huh.
So inside the book, there's all of these try this sections,
Okay, great.
and that's exactly what you're saying. That these practical aspects of
Yeah.
how can people actually make it real in their life, and I think this is something you do so well, that you've always really helped people understand really tough messages with humor and with laughter, and that's something that you do so well. And for me, that also is something that makes us feel like, oh, I can do this. It's not that serious. And so I think this is why I love wisdom so much, and I love what you do so much, and I'm so grateful to be speaking with you about this, because it just shows that wisdom is universal and that everyone and anyone can live it and learn it in so many different ways.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you. But from model to role model, Jay. I'm going to keep saying that, from model to role model. Not to say that you're not a model now. You look great and you have such a great charisma and personality, but more than a model, you're a role model, you know. But picking up from the humor part, Jay, you were mentioning about how, the humorous side, the funny side of spirituality or of wisdom. You can have the funny side yet you can also be very deep and grave in your life, in your own practice of wisdom. I was recently doing an event like before the lockdown started, and there was a lady who was a very renowned stand-up comedian. And after I had finished, she asked me a question. She said, "You are a monk, but seemed like you also have a stand-up comedian side to you. You know, she said that you are a monk, but here's a stand-up comedy side to you, and you use that side to pass on some really grave and serious messages." And then she asked me a question. She said, "So a monk can also take the role of a stand-up comedian. Can a stand-up comedian also be a monk?"
It's a great question.
Can a stand-up comedian also be a monk? And it's at that point of time I said to her, it doesn't really matter who you are and where you live and what you do. What really matters is that monkhood is not about attire or the hairstyle. It's about a set of universal principles. Right. So this book, Think Like a Monk, is sharing the universal principles that Jay learned in his monastic life and making it practical for stand-up comedians, making it practical for businessmen, making it practical for students, making it practical for housewives, making it practical for corporate professionals, where you don't have to change your life, but you can still tune into this monk wisdom and start thinking like a monk. So I really want to request you, Jay, one of the things you talk about in this book is purpose, right? Discovering yourself. And you even share something called as a Vedic personality test. Now, this is very tough for people to figure out who they are, what their space is, you know. And that's when they can then, once they discover who they are, that is when they can turn it into a purpose. Correct? So now I had the stand-up comedian ask me this question. She already figured out that she is a stand-up comedian, and now she wanted to see what are the monk principles that can transform her life. But how does one begin that journey of finding out who they are, what their personality is, what their purpose is? Could you kindly share some of your inputs and thoughts and some practical tips for those who are watching us today?
Yes, absolutely. So this is chapter 5 inside the book, and it's a chapter called Purpose. And this really, I would say, has been my fascination for the last 10 years in discovering my own purpose and wanting to help other people discover their purpose. Because I believe that if we had a world where everyone found their purpose, we'd be better people, we'd be better partners, we'd be better parents. It would have a huge cascading effect. Why? Because when you're living your purpose, you feel more confident, you feel less envious. That's one of the biggest hidden, subtle benefits of finding your purpose. And on top of all of that, you feel an impact in the world. But now purpose and passion are thrown around as these elusive, intangible concepts, and we just hear these words.
Yes.
And this model of Dharma, when I looked at it, and the word Dharma has many different translations, but two translations that I've come across and that I've understood that have really helped me are that of eternal purpose and your internal nature, your natural inclination. And so purpose, and I'll create an equation, simplifying what's in the book. Purpose equals passion plus strengths plus compassion. So if you're looking for your purpose, really you start by looking for your passion, your strengths, and your compassion. And that all together becomes synergized to be your purpose. So your passion is what you naturally feel drawn to, what you're activated by, what brings you to life. And the only way you'll find that is by doing lots of different things. So I remember in the monastery, I remember doing everything from taking care of the cows, through to taking care of the land, through to giving talks, through to having to do cleaning, through to having to do rituals and worship. There were just so many different tasks.
Correct.
And all you have to do is when you experiment, you just ask yourself after you complete the task, two things. Was that fulfilling for me?
Yes.
And was that fulfilling for others? And where you find the match, you start to discover your passion. So that's passion. Strengths is really important. So we have to remember one thing, that passion is not enough to create purpose. We have to work on developing our strengths. And we should never confuse inexperience with weakness. Just because you've never had any experience doesn't mean that it can't be a strength. So when I started out, I was so shy of being on stage. I only joined social media in 2014, but I had a passion and enthusiasm to learn about social media to see how it could be used for good in the world.
Correct.
And so you don't have to have the strength right now. You don't have to worry if you don't know the answer right now, but you can
Correct.
build that strength. And the final is compassion. This is really important. If you don't add compassion to your passion and your strengths, it will never be a purpose. We have to use what we have in the service of others. And when we use it in the service of others to relieve someone else's pain, that's when it becomes a purpose. So those are the three elements of finding your purpose.
Oh, wow. This is incredible. Absolutely profound, you know. And just to put it all together, how beautifully Jay said that when we're talking about our purpose is going to A, give us confidence, right? But B, very importantly, save us from this negative emotion of envy. And C, make a powerful impact on the world, just the benefits of purpose. And then the three components of purpose, right? Passion, strength, and compassion. And when he was talking about passion, is it fulfilling to me? And is it fulfilling to others? You know, that's how we see that it's really kind of in sync with my soul. And strengths, what a beautiful statement you made, Jay, that your inexperience is not your weakness. What a beautiful quote that is, that your inexperience is not your weakness. You can develop it into a strength. It's inherently there, it's just an inexperience there. And the last one, like the cherry on top of the cake, is compassion. Without service to others, it's of no value really, isn't it? And like Muhammad Ali beautifully said, service to others is the rent you pay for your time on earth. So such a beautiful quote. I love that. Such a beautiful quote, you know. But thank you so much for sharing, and I'm sure all our audience here is going to be benefiting from it, and we'll try to look at this beautiful book. And Jay gives in a 33 questions, you said, Jay?
33
questions exercise in trying to discover your purpose.
Yes.
That's really detailed. And I'm not going to ruin the excitement by asking you, can you share two or three questions with us? Guys, pick up the book, Think Like a Monk. It's available on Amazon. And many of you joining in from India, it's available on Amazon India and on all different Amazon portals all over the world. Please do pick this book up. It's an incredible read. I've gone through the pages of this book, and it's such an absolute joy to read the book. It's just an easy read, but it's also a study. It's not a book just to read. It's a book to study and to try to apply those principles in your life, which can transform our life. Jay, I'm going to also get into the book. And one more section, which I really loved, is a big problem that everybody faces. You know, whether it's at their work, or it's in their personal relationships, or it's even in spiritual organizations, anywhere in the world, wherever there are human interactions, there's a big problem that people face, and that's the problem of the ego. You know, a big section of this book, a large section of this book is dedicated to ego. And it's so easy to say that cliched line, you know, edge the E out and let it go. We've all used that line so much when we talk, isn't it? Edge the E out and let it go. Sounds so easy. When we actually start dealing with it, becomes so difficult. Relationships, there's so many issues that come out of ego. You know, professional conflicts, global rivalries spring from the ego. And I read that even the first part of this section of the ego section, you were talking about vinaya or humility as the antidote to ego. Now, how do you think people practice humility? Just so hardwired, isn't it? So conditioned to this ego. How does one bring in that element of humility? Because humility is transformational and satisfying. I really love that section. So could you kindly throw some light on that part, Jay?
Yeah, thank you. So ego is really smart because it does one of two things. It either makes you believe that you're the best at everything, or it flips it and makes you believe you're the worst at everything.
Correct.
And so ego tricks us into both being the best or being the worst, the lowest of the lowest or the highest of the highest. We don't find the balance. And in reality, all of us are good at some things and we're bad at some things. In reality, all of us have strengths and we have weaknesses and we have pros and we have cons. And so we have to find those. And ego actually creates a sense of feeling like if we know everything, we think that that's a strength, but it's a trick of the ego where actually it becomes our biggest weakness, because now we no longer ask good questions. We no longer allow ourselves to learn new things. And this
Yes.
is one thing that I found with when we practice humility, it's something that we aspire for. It's not
Correct.
something that we expect that we will have tomorrow. And there's a beautiful
Yes.
story about Benjamin Franklin and his 13 precepts, which I absolutely love. And so Benjamin Franklin had a journal of the 13 things he aspired for, and it involved things like tranquility, simplicity, integrity. And
Yes.
he was open and honest. He said sometimes he failed and he
Yeah.
made mistakes. Sometimes he ate too much, he drank too much,
Yeah.
sometimes he spent too much money, he said. But when he was dying on his deathbed, they asked him which was the precept he didn't achieve. And he
Mm.
said it was the 13th one. And they said, which
Correct.
one was that? And he said, humility. So humility is not something that we want to achieve today. It's something that we're aspiring for. And three very practical ways that I've found that I'm consistently aspiring for humility is the first one is be humbled by your goals.
Correct.
Set goals that you always feel that there's a long way to go, that this is
Yes.
just the beginning. And every
Correct.
time you reach a milestone, set a new goal where you're humbled by your own goals, not other people's goals, not other
Yeah.
people's bank balance, not other people's home or car,
Yeah.
your own goals. And so
Yes.
I'm consistently trying to expand my goals. The second thing that really, really helps me is to surround myself with people that are smarter than me and
Correct.
people that are experts in their fields. Not
Yes.
people that are arrogant, not people that
Yes.
think they're better than me, but people
Mm.
who genuinely have a skill or an ability. When I come back every year, me and my wife try to go back to the ashram, the eco
Yes.
village in India, where I spent some time as a monk. And when I go back there, why do I go back there? Because I want to be around people who've dedicated their life to these
Yes.
practices. And it reminds me of what a long way I have to go, but at the
Mm.
same time, how grateful I am to have their association.
Mm.
And then the third and final way that I find to create humility in our lives as an aspiration is to try and learn something new every year. Don't
Mm.
stop learning. When you stop learning, you stop realizing this beautiful mindset of a student. And I remember in the ashram, we were often told that you're a teacher and a student at the same time. That you
Yes.
never become a teacher, that you're never a student anymore. And you're never just a student where you don't get to teach. You're always both roles. And that's where we have
Correct.
confidence and humility at the same time.
Yeah. Wow, such an incredibly beautiful answer, Jay. Profound and so deep. It's a very deep answer. And I think what I really love is these three aspects that you're sharing about humility, right? That it's a very practical thing that you set goals which humble you, goals which are set and you know that it's an aspiration. I want to reach there, you know, and surround yourself with people who are better than you. Don't they say that if you think you're the smartest in the room, you're in the wrong room, isn't it? So just surround yourself with people from whom you're always learning, people who always inspire you. His Holiness the Dalai Lama also said that if you're always speaking, you're only repeating what you know, but if you're listening, you're learning something new always. So it's beautiful insight. And of course, the third one is to learn something new every year. And such practical aspects of humility. And that's the speciality of Jay. And that's the speciality of this book, Think Like a Monk. It's abstract principles decoded and presented in a very practical, tangible manner, which can be applied to transform our life in a very positive way. So, thank you very much for sharing those aspects of humility, Jay. I love that. Absolutely love that. So, learning something amazing this morning. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Uh, one more question, if you don't mind me asking. And if
Yes,
guys,
please.
if you have a question, you have a couple of minutes, right? It's fine, right?
Yes,
To
yes,
go a
please.
little
Yeah, yeah,
longer.
please, please. No,
Okay,
please
please.
go on, please. Yeah.
Okay, okay. Guys, we're going to go back to the Jay Shetty mode. Please press the like button. Please press the love button. And please press the share button. And let many more people join here and get access to the inner heart and the inner wisdom of Jay Shetty, the monk, the former monk who wrote Think Like a Monk. In fact, I consider him a monk now as well. A monk, a businessman monk, a social media monk, a sensational monk. you know. So thank you very much once again, Jay, for sharing all of this wonderful insights. If you have any question, guys, please put up in the comments, and I'll see if we could take up one of your questions and ask Jay as well. But meanwhile, as you want to ask your questions, I want to take one more up with Jay. Uh, in this section, in this book, you also have included a section on the mind, you know. And I think there's one thing that people really, really struggle with is silencing the noise in the mind. You know, there's so much noise going on, noise from your own inner demons sometimes, noise from what people have done to you, the traumatic memories, you know, what you've gone through. And there's so much going on in life anyways, all the time. And in fact, I really read the first part, the introduction part, where you even have this, I love this terms, the monkey mind and the monk mind. Beautifully framed, the monkey mind and the monk mind. So I think dealing with the mind is such a crucial aspect of finding fulfillment and living a transformed and a fulfilled life. So I really want to bring up this question: how do people silence the noise in their mind? What is it that they should do? What is it that they should practice that can help them silence their mind and connect to themselves deeply in finding joy and satisfaction?
Absolutely. One of the biggest challenges we see in the world is that our body and our mind are always out of alignment.
Yes.
So what I mean by that is when you wake up in the morning, your mind is racing, but your body is saying, I still want to stay in bed.
Yes.
Or you experience the opposite. You wake up in the morning and your body needs to run and move and you're frantic, but your mind is saying, oh, I wish we were still in bed.
Yeah.
And so all of our noise comes from this friction between this lack of this alignment between the body and the mind. So one of the simple ways of quieting the noise of the mind, which sounds counterintuitive, is to actually sit and be where you are and address the noise in the mind. So we think that by being distracted, by avoiding it, by numbing it, so we distract ourselves with a TV show, we avoid it by focusing on someone else's mistakes, we numb it with alcohol and different substances, but none of that takes away the noise. It just gets larger and larger and louder and louder and louder. And so actually, when we spend time in physical and mental stillness, and we sit with our thoughts, and we ask ourselves, where is this negativity coming from? What is the trigger? Why am I feeling this way? If we don't have this conversation with ourselves, then we will never even get close to quieting the mind. So quietening the mind is not some button that you just press or a dial that you just rotate. It is building up a conversation with that noise and trying to filter out the essence of where it started and what the root is. And this is when you said the monkey mind and the monk mind. The monkey mind is happy jumping from branch to branch. The monk mind is focused on the root. And so when we sit with our noise, when we sit with our anxiety, when we sit with our fears, we can get to the root of what they are.
Wonderful. Such an incredible input. Again, it's not by distraction that we deal with the mind. The mind already has a problem and distraction is another problem. So we're just cascading the problem even further. But to sit in that stillness and addressing that issue, addressing our thoughts, being comfortable, being uncomfortable. To get into we start becoming comfortable, being uncomfortable by addressing these problems is the way to kind of deal with these issues. So thank you very much, Jay, for that input. So many people are saying that we look alike. I don't know. I'm come on.
I wish.
A handsome guy, man.
I wish. I
was reading these comments. They kept saying you look alike. I said, no way. Jay, look at Jay. When I saw the picture in his home as a model.
I wish I was still, I wish I could look like you.
Next level. That's next level. And look at me, a bald guy. In orange robes. And
it's the years of friendship and connection that bring out the same emotions in the face.
I guess. Somebody even commented that looks like you guys are brothers. I said, yes, of course we are brothers.
Definitely.
Of course we are brothers. And we share... oh, you do look alike. Thank you, Lonika.
Someone else is saying bold and beautiful to you.
But I've chosen to shave off. I haven't lost my hair though.
Oh my God.
But one last question, Jay. That's fine. Somebody had asked this question in one of the participants asked this question that I couldn't catch the name, but somebody asked this question. We're surrounded by so many negative people around us, you know, and the presence of negative people who are very toxic can dampen our resolve to live rightly, you know, can dampen our enthusiasm to do things right. Because when you're just surrounded by people who just kind of, you know, suck out your mental energy and your mental peace, and it's just hard. It's just absolutely hard to continue on the way you want to. So somebody asked the question: how does one deal with negative people around you? You know, so
Yes.
you can kindly answer the question. I'm sure whoever asked would be benefited by that.
Yes, absolutely. So one thing I've learned in at least my life is that you will never change or stop negative people. That is something that someone has to do
Correct.
for themselves. And also, we should remember that no one is a negative person. They've just become conditioned with negative habits. People
Correct.
inherently are full of goodness and
Correct.
full of power and full of beauty. But unfortunately, because of our experiences, we
Yes.
become negative for a period of time.
True.
And so we can't change them. We can't change people. We can't transform who they are. But we can transform the amount of time and energy we spend with people who bring us down and people who bring us up. And in the book, I talk about this as the 75-25 rule. That 75% of your life, spend it with people who lift you up. So
Correct.
you won't be able to remove the 5 people in your life, the 10 people in your life that bring you down.
Yes.
But why not have 30 people in your life that lift you
Absolutely.
up? Why not have people that are so impactful and powerful that they can drive you? That is something you can control. And again,
Yes.
we shift, just as Stephen Covey would say, of shifting from what you can't control to what you can control. What you can
Yes.
control is how many powerful, positive, and enlightened people are you choosing to spend time with in your time that is of your choice.
Correct, correct. Thank you very much for that answer again. If you can't, you just vibrate higher by choosing to the 75% and just vibrate higher so that this doesn't affect you as much. But somebody commented there saying, what if those people are your family members and relatives with whom you have to spend 75% of your time? You know, if you were to choose to, if it's your friends, if it's colleagues at work, you can still choose that. But when it comes to family, relatives, close, very people who are very close, and they are really negative and toxic, how does one deal with that situation? You know, so this probably could be one of the last questions. I know, Jay, you have a busy schedule. And by the way, guys, it's night for him. Just getting close to what, 10 o'clock now?
Yeah, it's 9:07. It's 9:07.
9:07.
I've nearly been awake for 24 hours today because I woke up at 12 midnight to do an interview with Good Morning Britain, and then we did the
Oh
Today
my
Show in
goodness.
America. It's been amazing. It's been an incredible day. This is the last thing I'm doing today.
Cloud nine.
It's a good question. It is a good question. And in that regard, we have to realize that negativity only is allowed in if we open the door.
Correct.
You know, if someone's knocking at the door of your house and you don't think that they're the right person for you, you won't
Yes.
open the door. And similarly, there can be a lot of negativity, and there's certain level of just being closed off and letting that message hit the door, knock on the door, and then drop to the floor. And there needs to be a sense of resilience that we develop, where in our sense at home, when we have that, there's a beautiful analogy I remember from the Gita of the turtle that withdraws its limbs and hides in the shell.
Correct.
And this turtle lives in that way because when it's scared or wants to protect itself, it withdraws its limbs. And when it's in a safe space, it extends its limbs. So it may be that in your home or work environment, we need to just close the door so we don't allow it to enter.
Correct.
But then when we go out and we're around those 25% of people that are positive, are empowering, we completely allow ourselves to open to take it all in. So that's just some of my thoughts. It's not easy to do. It's difficult. I completely understand that it is not solvable in a moment, but I promise you that by thinking like a monk and by adopting some of these principles and all of them in your life, you can start to see progress for sure.
Yeah, wow, that's a beautiful answer. Again, I always say also that, when you have a ship in the ocean, the ship cannot sink unless the water enters it, and the
Yes,
water only enters in if there's a hole in the ship. So,
yes,
so if there's a hole in the ship, it's all the water is going to just gush inside, and the ship will sink. So whether we sink or we swim depends on whether we allow the water to enter into the ship or not. How does one seal that hole, though? So that's exactly what Think Like a Monk is. Right? When you have that hole through which so much negativity is coming in, so we need to know how to seal that hole and not allow that negativity to come in. And Jay Shetty's debut book, Think Like a Monk, which is already an international bestseller, #1 on Amazon internationally, gives us such incredible principles, such incredible tangible practical steps which are broken down to apply those principles, and for sure woven through beautiful episodes and stories and anecdotes of his own life. It is an absolutely amazing read, and I can say for sure with hand on my heart, it is a must read, guys. So if you haven't ordered it yet, please do order this book right away and tune in to the wisdom that Jay Shetty is sharing. I'm really sorry. I have never done the pin comment thing until now. I tried pinning and I put in the comments and I tried pinning it, but I couldn't do it. I'm not so technically astute yet. But what I'm going to do is after this session is over, I'm going to pin this up. So do look at it and bring this book in your home, bring this book in your heart, and I can promise you that this book will definitely transform the way you think. You will start thinking like a monk and transform your life without having to be a monk in your attire, without having to be a monk in where you live, and without having to be a monk in what you do. But I must say, Jay Shetty is such an amazing friend, such an amazing human being, so genuine. Every single word that he's spoken, I have had the opportunities to witness what he has spoken in action in his own life. So this is not just in words, but this is his wisdom, his experience, his realization that have been churned into these words, which have so much power and so much potency. It'll definitely change your life. Jay, I know we must allow you to rest a little bit. It's been more coming close to 21 hours now, I guess. 21 hours where you've just been on, giving yourself so much. But I think you've given so much to everybody. I think it's important that we give you some time now to rest. We would just love to talk to you all the time, but we must allow you to rest as well. We wish you all the very best, that the book just goes all over the place and transforms the world. But I must say, after having read it, you've just absolutely nailed it, Jay. It's incredible. It's just an incredible read. Guys, do pick it up. And thank you so much once again, Jay, for spending this time, your valuable time with us and inspiring all who are here for this Instagram live session. This session will be on our Instagram page as well. I'm sure Jay will probably save it as well.
yes.
Do have a look, and pick up the book and feel inspired. Jay, wish you a very good night whenever it begins for you to
Thank
rest.
you.
And all of you in America, wish you a good night. All in India here and other parts of the world, have a great day ahead. Thank you once again, and do pick up Think Like a Monk. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Gopal Das. And thank you, Mona. I think I saw you in the comments, Mona. Good to see you. And yes, please, everyone, head over to thinklikeamonkbook.com. And I'd really appreciate all your support. Thank you so much. Thank you, Gopal Das. Thank you for your
Thank you.
time.
Thank
Really
you.
appreciate it. Thank you.